Okay, go ahead and start whenever you like.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, and good evening. April 25th, 2022. This is the GBOS regular meeting. This hybrid meeting is taking place on Teams and at the Girdwood Community Room. The Girdwood Board of Supervisors, its committees and subcommittees are subject to the Alaska Open Meetings Act as found in Alaska Statute 44.62.310 and Anchorage Municipal Code 1.25 Public Meetings. The Girdwood Board of Supervisors operates under the Girdwood Public Meetings Standards of Conduct. I'll call to order at 7:03 p.m. I am Brianna Sullivan, co-chair of GBOS, Parks and Recreation and Cemetery Supervisor. And anyone next? Jennifer?
Jennifer Wingard, Public Safety Supervisor.
Guy?
Guy Wade, Fire Department.
Thank you. And Amanda?
Amanda Sassy, Roads and Utilities.
Thank you for roll call, and Mike Edgington is unable to be here tonight and excused. Are there any disclosures tonight? Any hands?
Sorry.
No
Yes, actually,
Right.
sorry, Brianna. I do have one. For item number 9, which is the update on assembly redistricting, I had, ironically enough, since I provided a little bit of heat in that original discussion, I'm now in it up to my eyeballs and am part of a lawsuit against the redistricting board that was filed this morning. So I will bow out of that discussion if that's, I think what makes the most sense is for me to give my version of update during public comment, since I am acting as a Girdwood citizen and not as a member of GBOS, and I'm not suing on behalf of GBOS.
Okay, thank you, Jennifer. And I agree that since you're quite involved, it'd be hard to separate, but you could definitely speak during public comment, and that is under our old business as an update. So perhaps we might ask you a question, but it doesn't require a vote right now. So that could change. So excusing yourself is great. And I don't hear anything else. So we'll move on to agenda revisions and approval. Is there a motion to approve tonight's agenda, April 25th?
I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you, Amanda. Any oppositions? Okay. Next one, March 21st, meeting minutes approval.
I'll move to approve them.
Thank you, Guy. Second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Jennifer. And last one, our special meeting regarding HLB annual work plan comment minute approval from March 29th.
I'll move to approve.
Thank you, Jennifer.
I'll second.
Thank you, Guy. All right, moving to announcements. The public is encouraged to ask questions and provide comment. Please raise your hand and wait to be acknowledged. To help discussions stay productive, please direct your comments to the board rather than other members of the public, and keep your comments focused on the business under discussion. Please be respectful of everyone's opinions. Proposed schedule effective June 1st of this year, 2022. The Girdwood Transfer Station, i.e. the dump, has new hours. It's Monday, Friday, Saturday from 9:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. And so they are now closed Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Sunday. Also, the recording of public meeting held regarding the Girdwood Health Clinic proposed phase 2 modifications on March 28th is available online at the link included. We can move to number 1, introductions, presentations, and reports. AWWU follow-up on temporary solutions to fluoridation issue in Girdwood. Is Sandy Baker or anyone from encourage wastewater and utilities here.
They are here. Sandy's here, and she's coming up to the podium.
Is this where I'm at?
Oh, thank you.
Yep, that's where you're at.
Fantastic. So we have what we think is great news for y'all. We've ordered some parts. They are due in supply, hopefully no supply chain issues. They should be doing that we can have fluoride back online early summer. We're planning by June, barring any hiccups.
Okay. Do we have some questions or anything, unless there's anything else you have, Sandy? Since you paused.
Guy had a question.
Sandy, I did have one question. You mentioned that during the last meeting or that you had two options for fluoridation. It was kind of the quick fix and then the permanent fix. Is this the permanent fix you landed on?
Well, this is a quick fix until we can get to the permanent fix. So it's the in between.
Okay.
I mean, you know, because ultimately, yeah, we've got to go to a different, we've got to make some other arrangements and stuff, but the plan is this will work until we can do the next thing.
And there was a little concern about, I think the levels of it, because, you know, you're talking, was it milliliters per, you know, very small units of concentration. So there's no worries there with.
Correct. Yeah. So we've done some further research and made sure that because there's already fluoride in, you know, naturally occurring, you know, we wanted to be sure that we didn't over fluoride, and we've done further research on that. That's not going to happen. We can, you know, the code calls for up to 7, but we're not going to reach a point that it's going to be an issue.
All right, good. Yep, I know. I appreciate that. Thanks.
You bet. Anything else?
Brianna, Jennifer Wingard had her hand up. What went down?
Okay, Jennifer. Oh, if you have
Sorry,
one, Jennifer.
it was Guy's question exactly. So thank you, Guy.
Okay, thank you, Jennifer. And I have one. Thank you, Sandy. Since you said first off that you ordered the parts, are these different parts that were ordered and on extreme delay for a year, or are these new parts after new research?
This is some new parts. We're taking a different tactic. So we've ordered new parts. They've already been ordered, and if everything goes well, they're in a few weeks. And then you know, there's some maintenance and stuff to have to be done, but we're working on it.
Okay, thank you, Sandy. And then a follow-up to that would be, what would be the method of informing all of the residents who use the water in Girdwood?
So, and we've chatted about that. We have a system, and I'm not 100% which way we're going to go. We're either going to mail out a letter, or we're going to email out, or we're going to do both. And that's in conversation right now as to once we kind of have a timetable when it's going to be up and going. So within the next week or so, we probably have a little bit better timetable. And so we'll have a little bit better what we would put in a letter to send out, whether it's email or snail mail or both.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions from the public?
No, we have no hands up.
No hands up. Okay. Well, I'm sure we'll be in touch, and thank you for coming tonight.
Thank you for having us.
Okay, number 2, update of housing developments in Girdwood, including Fulton Hills.
I could talk to this briefly. Sorry, working with our new technology here, so we're playing with our cameras, as you can see. There has been a change in staff at HLB, and so there's a new staff member and director working to pick up that workload associated with this project. But I've been assured that this still is a priority for HLB and for the administration, and so they will be working forward on this. But there's going to be a little bit of lag time as they put all the pieces of puzzle back together and understand the full complexity of it as new people step in to help move this along. So we have received quite a few letters in the packet tonight. You'll see that we have quite a few letters in there from different organizations and individuals in the community with concerns about the Holton Hills project in there. And so those were submitted, they came through us and we passed them along to HLB. So they have them and they have said they've received them. So there's been a lot of input lately. So it's still very much a issue in front of the community that they're aware of.
Great. Thank you, Kyle. Are there any questions from the board?
Jennifer's got her hand up.
Thanks, Brianna and Kyle. Kyle, just real quickly, I assume you haven't heard about any new dates or deadlines then? We don't have any revised deadlines around these decisions that were going to be made originally by the end of April?
No, I would probably say at the very least, everything's pushed back a month. There was supposed to be, I believe this week, a HLB commission meeting, but due to the change in staff and missing deadlines for posting for the public meeting, they delayed it a month. And so I think we will see a HLB commission meeting in May. At this point in time, that's the plan. So I think that's when the next steps will come. But I don't know exactly.
Okay, and then can I ask one follow-up question? Do you by any chance have any names that you can share so we know what our new faces are that we're dealing with?
Oh, well, yes. Director Adam Tronley, he's the director of HLB along with economic development. And then Emma Gibbon, I think, I'm not fully sure on her last name, but I can pass that along to the board, the contact information for HLB. Yeah, Bryce has got his hand up too. He probably knows better than I do.
Yeah, hey, Jim. Bryce Holbanks, Deputy Chief of Staff to Mayor Bronson. Just to key in really quick here, yeah, we're currently putting out the position for hire, and we'll have an update later. I just don't have one for you this evening, but we're looking at names and other people right now. But Adam is currently the standing in as director.
Thank you, Bryce, and thank you, Jennifer and Kyle. Are there any more questions or comments?
Yeah, Brianna, just a quick one. Maybe we'll talk about it on agenda item number 7. Did we hear any updates on their 5-year plan and their work plan, their yearly work plan, when that is going to be finalized?
When I talked to Emma, she says they have received the public input that was by the due date, and as part of their workload, they're going to sort that out and process the comments and then move it forward. That's still a working project that they have with the commission. So at some point in time, they will get that in front of the commissioners and then go back to the regular process for the schedule they're in before.
Thank you.
Yeah. And then Bryce has his hand up, so or is that before?
Oh, I'm sorry, Kyle. Did you? Oh, no, my hand is my bad.
No problem. Gotcha. Thank you.
Okay, anything else on number 2?
No other hands up.
From the public? Go ahead. Oh.
No, we look good. We look good.
Okay, no one from the public. Great. Well, I think it's great to continue having this item on as a placeholder on the agenda for sure. And it's great, also great that so many letters are coming in. So awareness and education is happening in Girdwood and hopefully to the commissioners on HLB. Number 3, legislative report. First, do we have Senator Roger Holland or Representative James Kaufman or their staff on call?
Yes, can you guys hear me? Sorry, I'm trying to get my camera.
I can hear you. Matthew.
Yes. Yes, my name is Matthew Harvey. I'm staff to Representative Kaufman. And I don't see anybody here. I can just go ahead with my update if that's okay.
That'd be great. Thank you, Matthew.
So really quick, the operating budget is passed the House. I believe it was last week. So it's in Senate Finance, and Senate Finance is currently having hearings. They released their version, the Senate committee substitute, they call it, but it's the Senate Finance's version. And they worked through amendments and then they're continuing to have hearings on it because they're releasing the capital budget. I believe this week, I want to say on Thursday, they'll be having at least their first iteration of the capital budget, and then there'll be amendments to that to change it and as the Senate Finance Committee members see fit. The capital budget starts over there, so usually they hold the operating budget over in Senate Finance after they amend it to kind of move them at the same time over to the Senate floor. So along with that capital budget, we're not really sure yet because we haven't seen their version of the capital budget. A number of things: total size of the capital budget, whether there'll be some more major projects like the port as an example, or more discretionary. And we issued a lot of projects through CAPSIS, which is capital projects. I think capital project it's our capital projects request system for legislators to enter things in. And so a number of those that we entered in affected Girdwood, and kind of the disclaimer before is always, since we're not sure the total size of the capital budget or how much kind of discretionary legislator stuff they have in there. Again, funding is always uncertain, but I'll go off a few things which we did put in as requests, and some of them were across Senate districts too. So they got Senate District N, which is Roger Holland's Senate District, as well as M, which is Josh Revak's, because we tried to get a few that kind of benefited all of Hillside coming down, turning an arm to Girdwood. One of those was like fire prevention and mitigation, so brush clearing. Fire risk on the hillside and Girdwood we see is a big issue. We've had, I know you guys have had members from UAA come in and they do all the mapping and stuff, which would guide where brush needs to be cleared for this project. We did put a project in for Challenge Alaska, the Keel Center in Girdwood, their roof and ramp replacement, the Ruane Road culvert, Crow Creek Road bridge, and then there's another Crow Creek Road project. So there's two of those. The Alyeska Creek Mount Hood Drive project for that, as well as the Little Bears Child Care Center. So we have those kind of Girdwood area projects, and then we have others for the other parts of the Senate district and our House district. But again, we're just not sure yet. Once that first version of the CS comes out, we'll try to, if things aren't in there, we'll try to get amendments in there to include some of those. But and then personal legislation wise, there's a lot of legislation moving in the House right now because we got the operating budget over to the Senate. So now it's the committee's kind of ramped up on personal legislation while we're waiting for the budget to get to the Senate floor and then back over for concurrence. So I guess one of our bills just passed out of House State Affairs, so it goes into House Finance next, and that's like an improvement tracking system, basically like a project hopper for improvement projects, and it comes with a fiscal note of one person to manage that system, kind of to up the utilization rate. We say from like it's a lot of organizations run at like 90% utilization, or that would be pretty good, like 70 to 90. So try to fill the utilization rate with improvement projects that will help, and a way to track them. But one that's further in the process, it's in the last step, is it's going to the Senate floor hopefully next week, and that's like a document reduction bill. See reports and publications and other things like that, which can either not be delivered at all or can be delivered digitally or combined with other things. A simple idea, but it can save like $500,000 to $800,000 a year, roughly, kind of an estimate. So that'll be in the last step before the governor. Hopefully we can get it past the Senate floor. And then a few other things really quick. Redistricting, I think there's probably some people on here which can speak to it better than I can, but there's a new redistricting map which got past the redistricting board. It's currently in litigation, and it paired the House district, which Girdwood is currently in, which kind of extended in this version. In all the versions, the House district extended down to Whittier, and then I guess it chopped off where Rep. Kaufman is, but it combined that House district that you guys are in with Eagle River. So it's currently in litigation over that issue with this, not the House district, but the Senate pairing that House district with the House district in Eagle River. I believe the hearing is tomorrow, April 26th, on that. I think it's courts.alaska.gov. I want to say you can log in to watch it live. And then I also really quickly wanted to say House Bill 411 is a bill which we didn't introduce, we actually missed the personal legislation deadline, but I was talking to Mike Edgington about that bill, and I'm glad that they got it in through Community and Regional Affairs, because committees can introduce bills after we can. And that was the kind of service area ownership over tax incentives. And that was something I know that affected Girdwood that you guys had requested. So that's in House rules, kind of the last step before the House floor. And we're supportive of that. I just, I'm thinking it'll probably get to the floor, hopefully this week, but maybe next week, and go over to the Senate, where I think we'll be able to get it through. But hopefully it's getting later in the session. I think we're on day like 96 or 97 now. So we got about 3 weeks left to finish some of these things up. But there any questions? I can touch on a few things.
Thank you, Matthew. Are there any questions?
I'm seeing no hands, Brianna.
Okay. I had hopefully a quick one, Matthew, for the timeline then for the CAPSIS. And right now you said you'll find out what the capital budget starts at. How many weeks do you think that would be?
They're releasing what should be their version, which includes some legislator input, I think on Thursday. I know they're releasing one of their versions on Thursday. I'm not sure if it's the one that'll include legislator input. The last one they had was really like their pick of what the governor's proposed projects were. So I'm pretty sure it'll be this Thursday, but if not this Thursday, it'll be next week, and we get the first look at it, and then it'll go through the amendment process in Senate Finance, and then on the Senate floor, and then come over to the House, where we'll be able to try to amend it if things aren't in there.
Okay,
So
thank you.
this week or next.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Any other questions? Well, thank you for coming, Matthew. It's great to have you
Yes, thank you guys.
back. Are there any assembly members, Kyle, Weddleton, or LaFrance?
I don't see them, but Randy's here, and he's our new assembly member of South Anchorage. So if you want, you could get a chance for him to introduce himself.
Yeah, Randy, if you could come forward and pronounce your last name so we know how to say it from now on. And welcome.
Yeah, absolutely. Can you hear me okay?
I can.
Can you hear me okay? Okay.
Yes.
So yeah, one thing certainly to get out of the election is how to say my last name. So it's pronounced Sult. So it's S-U-L-T-E. And if you just drop the E, it's like salt, but with a U. So Sult.
Got it. Thank you.
So, and yeah, I'll just keep it brief. You know, I'm looking forward to serving. I know John did a great job, very well liked. I definitely have big shoes to fill. John and I spent a couple Mondays ago for about 3 hours kind of doing a transition. So really trying to make sure I start off on the right foot. Definitely represent Girdwood and the other community councils as part of District 6. And it's not lost on me that, you know, 20% of the voters voted for John, 20% for me. And then what I think the real message is 60% chose not to participate in the process, which is unfortunate and something we've got to work on. But, you know, I'll be at the meetings, and I look forward to coming down to the meetings in the future. I'm actually in Phoenix at the moment, here for a conference. But, yeah, if you have any questions for me, I hope to get my uni email set up here this coming week. And, yeah, I'll take any questions now if you have them.
Thank you, Mr. Salt. And that is how I was told it was pronounced. So thanks for going over that as well, and welcome. Are there any questions or comments?
We're seeing no hand.
No hands. Okay. Well, enjoy the conference, and we look forward to having you at all of our meetings. We have them every month.
Great. Thank you.
Girdwood.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Bryce Wilbanks, who is on, right?
Yeah, no, thank Thank you, Brianna. So I'll keep it short, so I know you guys have a long agenda tonight, and it's a beautiful night out. So just a quick few announcements from the mayor's office. First off, the mayor's community grants and mayor's art grants applications are now live. So you can visit those at muni.org and click on Mayor's Corner. And there's a button at the top that allows you to apply for grants. I know there's a lot of nonprofits in Girdwood, that would actually really qualify for these for some of these funds. So you can go ahead and apply. I'm going to say they're micro grants, so they're anywhere really between $1,000 and $30,000, if not more, depending on the circumstance. So we just encourage you to apply if you are interested in getting any art done or would like to participate in a grant. Next, just really quickly, May 1st, just as a reminder, don't forget to get your set of tires off. I know it's been pretty obvious for the last few weeks, but get those set of tires off. Next, I think will be interesting for Girdwood, and it's helpful, is Kyle, I think, is chat enabled on this? It is not. I'll send it.
It's not right now. We don't do it on the GVOS meetings.
No worries. I'll shoot it over to you, Kyle, to maybe add to the agenda for next time. Or whenever. This is a free dump pass, so it works in Girdwood as well. So SWS is offering kind of, instead of doing free dump day, they're really doing kind of a free dump pass, but you have to register between now and May 1st and May 31st. So it should be good for your next agenda, and the passes do work in Girdwood. So you go ahead, you apply online, and it gets you it's a free pass to the Girdwood transfer station for up to a flatbed truck. So, or the Anchorage, not the Midtown Transfer Center, but the Eagle River Center. So Girdwood or Eagle River, one or the other. And that's pretty much what I have for you guys. I thought I'd leave an extra few minutes for questions and whatnot. So any questions, if you have time, I'm willing to answer.
Thank you, Bryce. Real quick for the dump pass, is that also on the Muni site?
I believe so. It's probably on SWS. It's probably on SWS
right.
site. Oh, Is it there? I might be breaking up.
And then the whole month of May is the registration time?
Correct. I'm not seeing, I do. So if you just Google SWS, click on the first link, it's on the sidebar on the right-hand side, free summer disposal pass is what it's called. But I will also email Kyle to get it out to everyone here.
Thank you.
Of course, I just thought that might be nice. Nice not having to pay for your dump pass.
That's really nice incentive to remind people when they start cleaning this time of year too. Any other questions for Bryce?
No hands.
Okay, thanks again for coming and being on the call, Bryce.
Of course, and I'll stick around for a little bit. I can't stay all night, but I can stick around for about half an hour is my goal.
Okay, perfect. Anchorage School Board, is Kelly Lessons here, or is this the week she has another obligation? Here, Kyle?
Yeah, can you hear me? Yeah, she may not be here right now, so we can move on.
Okay, if you see her pop up, just let me know. Number 4, supervisor reports. Start with Jennifer. Do you have anything to report?
No, I do not.
Thank you. Guy?
No, I do not.
Thanks. And Amanda, do you have anything to report?
No, I don't.
Thank you. And for myself, for Parks and Recreation and Cemetery, I don't have anything other than what's in the packet or what will be at the next Trails Committee meeting. And I'm sure Kyle might think of something for that report update. And I don't know what Mike would have had. I'll go to number 5 if I don't hear anything else. Service provider reports, 5 minutes each. Is Chief Weston on?
Yep.
Great.
Oh, hi there. My name is Michelle Weston. I am the fire chief in Girdwood. For our report, I wanted to say that we continue to be quite busy. We've had 27 calls so far in April, and those calls have been, majority have been 22 EMS calls and 5 fire calls. We, like all the other departments in Alaska, are being challenged by a shortage of firefighters. In Girdwood, that is also being impacted by available housing and the fact that we have a lot of other EMS and fire agencies that scoop in and take our very well-trained staff to work elsewhere. So people love to hire Girdwood people away from us. So that's been a challenge, but we still have a great crew that's working really hard to provide fire and EMS services here in the Valley. Other than that, we have upcoming, we're going to have a wildfire preparedness day on May 7th. We are anxiously waiting to find out if the first quarter budget revision includes refunding the $15,000 that was cut out of the fire department budget. That basically translate into a cut of 6 days VMS services. So we would like to see it put back into the budget because we believe that EMS services in the Girdwood community is important. And we've asked the municipality if they're not going to fund it to tell us which 6 days they don't want to have EMS service in the community. Additionally, in first quarter budget revisions was also the funding for core services or core training for Whittier Police and Girdwood Fire members. The core team is a service that provides mental health support and behavioral support to community members that are having behavioral health emergencies. We respond to 1 or 2 behavioral health emergencies, sometimes more a month. The core team is able to support those functions where a person might need access to mental health services that might not need or require an ambulance service. So you're able to keep the ambulance in service while still providing support and care for that person and guiding them to the services that they need. We were able to bring down crisis support, and when we talk about mental health in terms of helping with grief counseling this past month, and we're always available if anyone's having concerns and need support or need to find someone to talk to. Most of us have had training, and we also have the ability to reach out and bring providers back into the community to help out with that. Other than that, we are expecting an incredibly busy fire season in terms of EMS services. We expect that there'll be an extra 20,000 people coming through the service area with the cruise ships that start, I think, mid-May. We do have a bus exercise scheduled for Wednesday, the 12th or 11th, down with Cooper Landing to practice a bus multi-casualty accident. And then on also the day before that, we have the Anchorage hazmat team from AFD coming down to practice hazmat response in the community. Finally, I'm sure a lot of people have been asking me about extrication tools, so I'll give you an update on that. The items we are fundraising for right now is $175,000 of extrication tools. These are the tools that we need to cut people out on the highway. A new boat, we're fundraising for a new boat. We're also fundraising to replace a $2,000 vac mat, which is an EMS service issue that helps us provide stabilization to patients. We use it all the time. It's not always used in Anchorage, so we're not allowed to get it reimbursed when we have problems getting a replacement. So we have to fundraise for it again. You might recall the brewery fundraised for this a couple of years ago. And then additionally, we have command rigs that are 16 years old that are at end of life. And so we're trying to figure out how to fund those. In terms of extrication equipment, I'm very pleased to say that I have been able to get of our 175,000, at least half funded. Until probably October. I'm still fundraising for the rest of it. I want to thank everyone that's been able to support us in terms of fundraising. That's been huge. And yeah, that's it for me. Thank you. Any questions?
Quick question. Your extrication equipment.
Yep.
Do you have some on loan from Anchorage? And
we have a temporary. There's replacement spare set. We have that. So we have that, and then we're trying to get
some equipment with the funding that we just received from a private donor to be able to get a small piece of equipment up. The larger package that we were funded by an entity, which I can't mention until we have the press conference, that entity, that package has to come up together. So unfortunately, we're not going to see it. We do have a legislative capital request in for funding. When I found out we had the problem, I went and talked to all 11 fire departments south of us. And so Senator Michichi down in the Kenai was very gracious to put that in as a legislative capital request. So that's in there under the Kenai section.
Nice. All right. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Chief Weston. Are there any more questions from anyone or anyone in the public?
We're not seeing any hands.
Okay, thank you. For police, is Chief O'Shea there or on call?
He's on the phone. Go ahead, Chief.
Yes, I am. Just a quick breakdown over this weekend for the Slush Cup weekend, Spring Carnival in Girdwood. We maintained a high visibility presence in Girdwood, predominantly on Saturday nights where we had up to 4 uniformed officers on duty into the early hours of the morning. They were concentrating their efforts on security checks, bar checks, contacting and dispersing individuals that's overindulged a little bit. Other than that, it was a good presence for us there. We dealt with several minors that intoxicated, set them on their ways, as well as dispersing some snowball fights here and there. But we maintained a good presence. A couple of we assisted on some vehicle impounds as well. So it lasted up to the early morning hours on Saturday, and we still remained there just for if there was any other calls or for assistance. But other than that, it was for the first major festivities that we were involved in since COVID. It was luckily not that eventful, with the exception of all the patrons and traffic that came into Girdwood. We also like to thank Girdwood Fire Department as well as Anchorage Police Department for their efforts throughout this weekend as well.
Thank you, Chief O'Shea, and thank you to APD and Girdwood Fire Department as well. It's great to have your update at these meetings. Are there any questions from the board?
No hands.
From the public? Okay. Thank you. All right. Kyle, Parks and Rec and Roads report.
Sure. I'll just give a quick brief through us. It is spring, so at Parks, we're starting to get ready. We're halfway done with our hiring process. We do have a job offer out to individual right now. We're just waiting to hear back from them, and then hopefully we'll have our seasonal staff hired for this year. Our campground hosts are on the way up, and they will be here mid-May. So we look forward to having them join us and be here. And then we'll be opening the campground about that time. So about third weekend of May, we'll get the campground going. We're happy to report that the baseball field is thawing out after we were able to snow blow it this year. And so that will help the Little League teams and even the Sunday softball league get a head start on the field this year out there. We want to thank the winter crew that we had here that did all the maintenance of the trails for grooming out there, picking up litter, doing their part. And that's any volunteer really who was out on the trails who helped improve and made the winter activities so much better. That's coming to its close, but it's still good out there. So if you like to go out and ski, the meadows are holding up and the bridges as well. So we recommend you get out there and enjoy it while we still have it. We are currently working through the suspension bridge. We've been working closely with the Forest Service lately on identifying the appropriate engineers that they agree with and we agree with. And so we're very close on that, and we hope to be pushing forward on a full design of the suspension bridge and working with our partners there at the U.S. Forest Service to make that happen going forward. And we'll be giving updates as we go through with GTC and TVOS as that project moves forward there. As always, we keep everything updated on our websites, and Margaret tries to keep things posted with Facebook and those type of feeds. But you can always find a lot of information about all our committees on our websites there, out there. With the Lions Club Park, we were working on a grant for that. We learned just last Thursday we did not receive the grant. It was stiff competition this year for Parks Foundation grants. So we'll be talking about that later on tonight, about the pavilion idea for the club there, for the park. The club's been wanting for several years. And in disc golf, we have a great Eagle Scout project going on where they're making, Bodie Wedeking is making maps, signs for each of the holes. And we have a newly fresh club that is supporting us with the management and the maintenance of the disc golf course. So we look forward to working with them this summer. So within our reports, you'll find, and that's within the packet, you can see all our current grants, things like that. We are currently working on a Rasmussen Foundation grant that we will be submitting this week in the hopes of getting $250,000 for the suspension bridge. They have shown strong interest in that, and so we'll be submitting a grant to them. And switching over the roads, we are definitely have moved into spring, and so we are now waiting on a few things to really dive in and get this road set up in spring and summer. One is the weight restrictions that are currently on asphalt and dirt roads are in full force. So we're limited on what we can really do. And then two, we like for the roads just to melt out. So we're seeing a lot of water coming up, but not as bad as years past. So the breakup and the thaw is going much better in that aspect. Crews will be out there maintaining roads, especially ones that have got a big potholing and trying to get water where it should be. So they are out today doing some grading in that aspect. And as soon as conditions allow, we'll get out there and get the spring grading and then get that calcium chloride done, especially for those really dirty or dusty roads. We'll get that taken care of. It's all ready to go and it's down in the yard. So, and then quickly on some of the major projects, the Alyeska and Moose Meadows culverts, basically the drainage improvements down there, we're replacing those culverts. We're in the design and engineering phase right now. We're getting very close and wrapping those up. And we're hoping to tackle one of those projects this summer, but it's dependent on funding in that aspect. And then the Halloween damage repair, we will be restarting that once those weight restrictions go off for roads, and then finish up the repair down on the Ruane with the California Creek damage there, and then in the other four major areas where we had damage, getting up and finishing up what we couldn't do last year because snow pushed us out. So those will get going, and at the same time, we're working on reimbursement for all the damage there, and we hope to start getting our first reimbursement from the state within the coming months here. They are loaded down with many disasters, so we're in queue with them as we've submitted everything we needed to at this point. So, and then just budget wise, we are still pending on a invoice for March. This will be something I'll probably be talking with the board about. Our contractor would like to discuss the high fuel prices. It's something that they didn't. They weren't able to estimate for it. You know, it's almost gone up about 100%, 120% from when they first did the contract. So we are working with that with them. So at this point, we don't have a March invoice, but we will hopefully have one coming soon in that aspect. But I have a very good idea where we're at. We're definitely within our normal spending area for March. And then overall, our capital, our expenditure budgets for roads this year, we've only spent 18%. Keep in mind, we don't have an invoice paid for March yet, so it's probably more like 25% at this point in time. And then parks, we've only spent 1%. And then otherwise, budgets are right in line and looks pretty good for where we are at this point. That's all I have at this point. Got any there?
Kyle, I cannot hear you the last 30 seconds or so.
Can you hear me now?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay, I'm back. Yeah, it looks like we had a little cutout there with ours, but we're back. So I'm done with my report.
Great. And thank you. I heard all of it except the very, very end. And lots going on. So thank you for keeping track of everything. Are there any hands up for questions from the board or anyone?
Oh, Guy's got his hand up.
Yeah, the fuel price, and I can totally appreciate that, but you said you wanted to meet with the board. Are we, that would be a quarterly meeting, or will a special meeting for that, or like that?
We'll probably advise you. I'll find out what, I think we just want to advise you about the increase we're seeing there and what the structure will be. There is a term within the purchasing that allows for this. And so contractor can send a memo to us, explain what they're going through. And then we work with the purchasing department, and they usually sort it out with the contractor to cover those additional expenses. Basically, it's like a fuel variance that you'll see a lot of times when fuel prices are this high.
So expect that in the next month, or do we need to do that to get the March invoice out?
I will probably let you know if I need to get your approval. We'll do a special meeting. Otherwise, I'll wait till the May meeting.
Okay. Thanks.
Anything else?
Nothing else. That's it.
Thank you. Thanks for keeping us updated. Public comment. Persons offering public comment must state their full name and address. Public comment is limited to 3 minutes per person and must be on subjects not listed on the agenda. Is anyone here to have public comment tonight?
I do not see any hands, Brianna.
Okay.
Oh,
No one
Jennifer.
from the board. Jennifer, okay. When you're ready, Jennifer, we'll give you 3 minutes.
Yeah, I see Amanda's hand up too. Amanda, you want to go first?
Sure. Can you hear me?
Yes, we got you.
Yeah.
Okay. Real quick, we just determined Mike being out this week, we are not going to have the Imagine Girdwood meeting, and I will be sending out notices after this meeting. And at this point, we will have, oh, sorry, I should have started Amanda Sassy, Girdwood resident and vice chair of Imagine Girdwood in this role. At this point, we will just have our May, I think 25th meeting. And then if we end up having a meeting before then, we will send out email notification to our email list. And if you have any questions, you can email at girdwoodareaplan@gmail.com. And that's all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, and now I'm back to GBOS. New hat.
Thanks, Amanda. Jennifer. Thanks.
Thanks. So Jennifer Wingard, and now as a community member. The news was released this morning, so it's now public knowledge that I am one of several plaintiffs from Girdwood that is challenging the redistricting board. This was something that GBOS took a stand on, but it's not well outlined in the letter that's included in this meeting packet, because originally when we drafted that letter, we thought that the Girdwood and Eagle River pairing had been dismissed, but it came back. So basically, for those who haven't been following this, because it can seem esoteric, the redistricting board had a legal and constitutional solution, and one that was had been approved by the judge, but after the East Anchorage pairing got thrown out, they manufactured reasons to, we think, adopt a different map that pairs Girdwood with Eagle River. And while it might not seem immediately obvious why that's problematic, I would remind everyone there's a contiguity requirement on this, and the only way in which we are contiguous is if you walk over Crow Pass or drive through multiple other Senate districts to get to Eagle River. But the other thing is Eagle River has actively thwarted Girdwood essentially on things like our school bonds. So it took us 12 years to pass that. Had Eagle River voted differently or voted to agree with Girdwood that we knew what we wanted, that would have gone much differently. So being paired with them is, I think, problematic. So I know I only have 3 minutes. I will wrap it up. We are raising funds. We are only as strong as the funds we raise, so we need all the help we can get and any help we can get. We already have lawyers. We have also an interesting coalition developing of moderates from across the political spectrums who are interested in seeing that we don't devolve into more partisan politics. So anyone who has any questions about it or anything else can contact me. And now I am back to being on GBOS unless there are any questions.
Thank you, Jennifer. I have one question that would maybe work right now instead of later. Is the hearing tomorrow, like Bryce mentioned? I wasn't sure.
The hearing tomorrow is, yes, somewhat, but the hearing tomorrow is connected to, or directly with the East Anchorage Challenge. So there will be ramifications for us on how that plays out, but it doesn't all necessarily end unless the judge really comes out strongly against what the redistricting board is doing.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions for anyone or any other public comment?
No hands.
Okay, thank you. Let's move on to number 6. Old business permitting for Girdwood Forest Fair 2022. Is Karen Zuccaro here with any update? It said, and
Yes,
request for letter of non-objection and confirmation of fee waiver. Go ahead.
Hi, yes, I am here. I could even turn on my camera and say hello. Can everybody hear me?
Yeah, we got you. We can see
I can
you.
hear you.
Okay, great. I didn't know, I can just give an overview of the materials I sent. What I sent very early this morning that I believe the board has access to, but the general public may not yet, is a copy of our site plan document, which is kind of a written plan of how the forest fair usually runs, and then an actual map of the layout of what the forest fair looks like. And so the site plan that we're submitting, the documents and the actual plan, are very similar to the last year we had a real forest fair, which was 2019. And we are very excited to be having, planning a real forest fair for 2022. So what this is, and Kyle could probably give you a better overview than I could, but there are a lot of permits that are required for us to put on the forest fair. It's an all volunteer community event that takes an enormous amount of work and is a lot of fun for a lot of people, and actually brings a lot of notoriety to our community, as well as, you know, gets us to work next to our neighbors that we don't necessarily see every day otherwise. So Forest Fair brings a lot of benefits to the valley. It's one of the things that lots of people, it's one of the top 3 things they know about Girdwood. It's a partnership with the Alyeska Resort, who've supported us over the whole life of the fair, which is more than 40 years. I didn't get the exact date. And so we appreciate that relationship, and we think there's a synergy there for, you know, the other businesses in the community. Even if they don't make a ton of money that day, it has to do with creating the 4-season resort tourism community that kind of is the economic engine that, you know, our community benefits from, and actually the whole municipality benefits from. So that's part of the reason why we ask every year for Parks and Rec to waive the fees for the park. I mean, the other parts of the, you know, the other parts of the story, as you could see in the application, are, it's really the Girdwood Forest Fair volunteers over the years that created the park. So there's a lot of history there. And then we are a nonprofit, all volunteer organization, and the amount of money that we get from the fair, we try to share with the community. A lot of it goes back into just putting on the fair, but the money that we can make extra goes back to the community, and, you know, in terms of just gifts and grants to things like Little Bears, the school, arts camp, and so forth. So I know for many, many years, and there has been a waiver for these Parks and Rec fees. And in years past, we had been asking for a waiver on the alcohol fee that Parks and Rec used to require. And that is no longer the case because the municipality has a different tax that is not something that we're going to try to avoid. We're going to be paying that tax, but that goes to the municipal general fund. So that's an overview of kind of what the ask is. And I'm going to trust that people either already know a lot about what Forest Fair does, and or they can read the documents and would maybe prefer me not take up a lot of time to go through all of it. But Kyle, you've got that map there. I'll just point out some of the differences for this this year. So this map looks a little different than the years before because we tried really hard to make it more usable. A lot for our booths. All the little numbers are like the different booth numbers. And then also some improvements over the last few years working with the fire department and others is we're now more deliberate about identifying our emergency exit routes, you know, in case of an emergency, and our volunteers are deliberately trained to take care of crowd control in an emergency. And we have fire extinguishers located on this map. And probably the big thing that would be different to people that are familiar with the fair is you'll see down at the lower part of that document, it says food booth area. And this is backed up next to the ball field, not the thoroughfare that heads straight for the Marlowe stage like it was before. And this move came with a lot of discussion and has some good reasons. One is there was some concern about having we don't have electricity for the food booths. There's a lot of, open flame kind of cooking equipment, and having that in the middle where there were trees overhead was not happy for the the fire department for good reason. So that was one reason. And the other one, through talking with the committee, is just not having that kind of clog of people trying to stand in line and get their food and get to the band, the big band and the t-shirt booth all at once. We're hoping we'll kind of create a better flow and less congestion, especially for little kids and older people if they want to get to the music but don't want to get jostled around. Otherwise, the one other thing I'll add is we are adding some more toilets and even more hand washing, like our ratio of hand washing to toilets has increased a lot. Partly, we started to do that because of COVID, but then we realized that it also is more effective to just bring more fixtures down. It helps us with the logistics of getting them pumped over the weekend. So that's maybe more information you wanted to know about potties. Last detail is we are going to have the commuter bus. We had it one day in 2019 and it went really well. And so this year we're going to offer it on all 3 days of the Forest Fair. And that's July 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. And then the 4th of July lands on a Monday. So the Forest Fair won't be happening that day, but we will be cleaning up that day. And we're happy to have volunteers that might have the day off. So if cleanup might go even better than previous years. We always clean it up, just sometimes it takes us longer. And with that, unless Kyle, you would suggest I point out any other highlights. You know what, I will go to the page that might be of interest, which is I think page 3. It just gives a status on where all the things that we're supposed to be doing are. It takes a little while to get it all together. So this is the first draft of the overall plan, and we need to kind of get the conversation going with GBOS and the rest of the community. But these are all the other permits that either go to another department in the municipality, or I'm working with Margaret and Kyle to process through. Almost everything on the list hinges on our insurance, and that was a little hard to get the conversation going with the same supplier we've had over the years. But we do now have in hand a letter of intent. We've gotten a quote and we've told them, yes, we want to move forward with the contract, and it has all the additional insureds and, all the things that we've always had to cover the insurance for the whole Forest Fair event. And I guess I'll just say there, everything's in process. I think everything that we need to do has at least started with a conversation with the responsible person that we need to interact with, or the permits in, or, you know, we've made contact. So I have extra information about those types of things if somebody has a particular question or a comment. And with that, I'll just open for questions or additional input from Kyle.
Sure, I'll make some input real quick. I know Karen's working hard on getting this all in, and it's a game of patience. And so getting that insurance, I think now will be a big momentum to get our permit wrapped up. So I think once we get all the permitting in, we will definitely return to GVOS and request a letter of non-objection to the fair. So that, and this gives you time to read through the operating plan here that they submitted, the fair plan. So it goes into great detail about all the different aspects of the fair. So at least you'll get familiar with that. So next month. And then the other thing I'd like to point out is that in 2016, the Board of Supervisors passed a resolution to waive the fees for everything except for alcohol. And then the initial submitting fees, which really just sort of somewhat a little bit covers our time to do the processing on this. But all the other fees that are associated with vendors, rental of the park, electricity, all those things, GVOS passed the resolution in 2016. So we always want to reconfirm that as there are new board members every year so that you're aware that resolution is standing. And if you had any issues with that resolution, we definitely wanted you to let us know about it so we could address it with the board. But at this point in time, we don't see, we haven't heard any issues with it, but we just want to make sure you're aware of it. And we can share that resolution with you if you'd like to see it, board members. But that's all I have. So I will open it up to, send it back to you, Brianna, for any questions that people might have.
Thank you, Kyle. Thanks for clarifying that. So we do not need to make any motion tonight. And I do look forward to reading through the information Karen and the whole board has put together for the Forest Fair. Sounds like lots of pre-planning and lots of time that has elapsed since 2019. I did have a quick question about the commuter bus. Is that from Anchorage or from Girdwood Day Lodge?
Actually, it's both. So the one from the Day Lodge, we're working with the Alyeska Resort, and they've indicated that we'll have a similar arrangement as previous years with that bus going from the Day Lodge, you know, making the loops to drop off the people from the parking lot. But what I was talking about is actually a bus from Anchorage to Girdwood, 2 buses that kind of circle around for the day, so families can come to Girdwood and not worry about the traffic. And we're also hopeful that we can get more people to use this bus so that the parking issues and the traffic issues during the parade can be mitigated better. You know, because we do realize, and we just had Slush Cup, so people are really interested in coming out and enjoying festivals again. So we know that we think having the bus will help mitigate some of that extra traffic.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other questions from the board or public?
We got Guy and Jennifer from the board. So Guy.
Yeah, thanks. Thank you, Karen, for doing this. This is, I think we're all looking forward to it. I know it's a lot of work, so it's much appreciated. My question is about the shuttles too. Does Forest Fair have to pay for that, or is that self-sustaining, like through the cost of the commuter, or how is that funded, I guess?
Okay, so I'll talk about each one of them separately. So the bus that runs from the parking lot just to the Forest Fair that takes care of the people that park at the Day Lodge, that one is usually sponsored by Glacier City Transit, and they usually charge, you know, or they have a suggested donation of $1. And I haven't talked to them directly, but I've heard others indicate that they usually make a pretty good profit. You know, they get good donations during that time. And so they're usually interested in doing that. So Forest Fair isn't actually paying for that bus. We do pay the resort some fee, not, you know, they still donate quite a bit, but we pay them a little bit to help support the staff that has to take care of the Day Lodge parking lot. Now the commuter bus, some of the Forest Fair committee members are actually looking for sponsors. Last year when we did it, we we charge $5 each way, I think, and it doesn't cover the cost by any means, but we really feel that it's valuable and a necessary part of kind of putting on a good, safe fair. So we are looking for donations, sponsors for that, but if not, we will just, that will be part of the cost of having the fair.
Yep. Yeah, thanks for that. I think the one from Anchorage down here, yeah, the cost is almost worth, you know, whatever it takes to put people to, you know, for parking and easier mobility for families and, you know, keep people that may enjoy the beer garden a little, give them an option too. So thank you for clarifying that.
Yeah. Thank you.
And Brianna, Jennifer had her hand up.
Yes.
Oh, I just wanted to say, Karen, thank you so much. And also that I appreciate the way in which Forest Fair has been so flexible and things like moving the food area to a different zone. I mean, it's great with COVID still going on that you guys are trying that, but also it's been kind of a bottleneck in the past anyway. So maybe this will be a kind of a new flow and see how that works. So I just wanted to send some appreciation your way. That's all.
I'll let the other committees know, members know. They'll appreciate all those extra hours of discussion.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Jennifer. And so exactly what you just said, Karen, tell everyone that we're grateful and it's a lot of foresight.
And then
right.
Brianna,
Now I thought, yep.
We had Kelly Lessons had her hand up too.
Okay, great.
Oh, I'm sorry. That was just me saying I'm here, and I'm happy to hijack your meeting and try to go back to earlier if an update from the Anchorage School Board would be timely.
Okay.
I think that your timing is fine, and we'll say thank you to Karen unless there are any other questions for Karen.
No other hands at this time.
All right, Kelly, take it away. Thanks for coming. Great, thank you.
Great. Thank you. I'll have to figure out how to lower my hand. Well, it's nice to see you all. I wasn't expecting to be here because last week we had a board meeting and I thought you were meeting, but you're not. So in any event, it's April and this is going to be my last Girdwood meeting because the school board will be reorganizing on Wednesday this week. And so a new board member will come and serve the Girdwood Girdwood Board of Supervisors over the next year. But I emailed GBOS ahead of time, so hopefully there's a link available. As always, a lot of great information is available through our ASD Connect platform, and hopefully that can be shared out. The big news from ASD, of course, is that our superintendent has been selected, and his name is Dr. Jarrett Bryant. This was announced about a week and a half or 2 weeks ago. Dr. Bishop, again, retires effective at the end of June, and Dr. Bryant, whose last name is spelled with 2 T's at the end. You know, he really brings, he's coming from the Houston Independent School District. It's the 7th largest district in the country. And he's been there for 10, 11 years, really working his way up through the system. He brings a very strong vision. He's deeply committed to the board's goals for reading proficiency, math proficiency, and this college career life readiness. He understands that we're looking at a pre-K through 12 system. And he has a lot of enthusiasm. He's got a lot to learn and a lot of friends to make here in Anchorage and in Juneau. So hopefully he will be down in Girdwood before too long, learning the entire municipality. He does have a 3-year contract, but I can say that he'll be here in town before his official start date, onboarding, shadowing, and making sure that there's a good transition. And Dr. Bishop and her team are really committed to that smooth transition. So yes, for all of those, for those of you who helped shape the board's input through stakeholder surveys, and then there were impression forms following the visits, I sincerely appreciate the time that you took because we took that input very seriously. A couple of things that the board has reviewed recently. One was all of our graduates are going to have exposure to financial literacy. That's going to be a component before they leave 12th grade. It'll be embedded within econ courses. That's one of these life-ready metrics that we'll be monitoring. So financial literacy hasn't been rolled out across the district yet, but we can expect that that will happen. The board also spent some time at our last meeting talking about chronic absenteeism. And just to let you know, this is a problem that's happening across the country. When a student misses more than 10% of a school year, they're considered chronically absent, whether or not it's excused because they've gone to a soccer tournament, or they're looking at colleges, or it's unexcused. Chronic absenteeism is linked to a host of not great outcomes. So it's something that the board is watching and wants the administration to work on to help, build those relationships with students, with families, to make sure that all of our students are in school as much as possible. Other things, we are monitoring what's happening in the legislature right now. There's a big reading bill. It's called the Senate Bill 111. It's passed out of the Senate. It's over in the House, and it is a really great opportunity to focus to improve reading outcomes statewide. And it may be that student funding hinges on the passage of a reading bill. So if we're looking at an increased base student allocation, I know that the governor really wants a reading bill passed, and SB 111 is a great bipartisan bill that a lot of work has gone into. So yes, we're looking at that. We're watching House Bills 272 and 273, which are the base student allocation adjustments. They're all different scenarios right now, so nobody can really tell what's going to happen, but it's certainly an interesting time of year in Juneau. Graduation ceremonies this year will take place at the UAA Alaska Airlines Center. And after that, we will have summer school again this year. So summer school options being funded by our COVID relief money are being offered to students whose principals really believe that they would benefit from that extended learning opportunities. For those of you looking ahead to next year, your parents or family members, the fall lottery is open right now. Online registration for returning students opens up today. Okay, it opened up today. And the first day of school will be August 18th for grades 1 through 12, and a week later, August 25th for kindergarten. We have board meetings coming up on the 3rd, on May 3rd, and then May 18th. And that is the gist of my update. Any questions pressing on people's minds?
Thank you, Kelly. And I know we will miss your updates and representation here in Girdwood. So thank you for all of your time and dedication to your role. I know you'll do great in your other area, but
I'll see where I land. I'll miss your friendly meetings, but please, if you see me hiking in Girdwood this summer, please say hello.
Okay, I will.
All right, thanks. Have a good one.
Any questions for Kelly otherwise?
No hands at this time.
No. All right, thanks guys. Have a great night.
Thank you.
All right, back to number 7. Review GBOS discussion and status of HLB draft 2022 annual work program and 5-year management plan. I think this was already basically covered. If there's anything else to add, Kyle, please do.
Yes, I'll scroll down here real quick. Sorry, for those looking at the screen. Basically, the Girdwood Board of Supervisors spent several meetings and work sessions going over the HLB plan and the draft plan, and they submitted comment. I'll put it on the screen now, and you can find this in the packet, the comment that they did submit on April 7th. And then there was another comment given to us from the Girdwood Community Land Trust too. So all those comments, like I said earlier, have been submitted to HLB. With the staff change, the staff are figuring out how to process those comments and then present them to the commission. So there's going to be a little bit more lag time between what we expected. But we just want to make sure that you guys know that those comments got submitted to the board. So that's all I have at this time.
Thank you, Kyle. And thanks for highlighting they are in the packet. There are a lot. They're worth everyone reading and processing. Any questions on number 7? Okay. Number 8, agenda item LUC 2201-06, Girdwood Industrial Park concerns, power cladding.
I'll speak to this because it definitely directly affects my world. Once again, I think this is another project that's delayed with the change in staff at HLB. And I haven't directly talked to this, but we generally talk to it. But we have invited Emma, who's the land manager, who's taking over a lot of the workload, and especially on this topic. And I told her when she gets her feet under her to come down and we could do a field trip of the industrial park, get a sense for it. And we also been inviting the director, Adam Trombley, to come down as well and get a sense for it too, and understand the issues we're dealing there with. If anything, power is a big issue for us, and having power for next winter is important for the snow plow operators down there, snow removal operators. So we want to see if we can accomplish anything with Chugas this year to hopefully get that taken care of. If not, really establish that as a priority for 23 to get that solved. So we'll learn more as it goes forward, but we are working with them as they try to adjust with the workload that's been given to them.
Thank you. Thanks for the update. Last meeting and this meeting. Are there questions on number 8 from anyone?
I see no hands this time.
Okay. Thanks. I look forward to hearing more about that one as well. Agenda item number 9, agenda item LUC 2201-07, update on assembly redistricting / reapportionment of assembly seats and state Senate redistricting. Kyle, could you start that one?
Sure, I can just touch to it. The Board of Supervisors at the last meeting passed a resolution of support for reapportment supporting maps 6 and 11. And what the board there, the reappointment board, did is chose the map that you didn't support. So at this point in time, that map combines Eagle River and Girdwood together, East Eagle River and Girdwood together as a district. And so, but now it sounds like it's in quite a bit of litigation. So we don't really know where that stands until we see how it plays out in the court. So there's public comment about that earlier tonight. So stay tuned as to how that plays out. But your resolution was submitted to the reappointment board when they were considering this issue.
Great. Okay, thank you. Just since it said assembly redistricting, that was a while ago. So then state Senate is different.
Yeah,
yes.
There were 2. So this one was the model for the letter that's right behind this one. So
Sorry.
I don't know that we had updated the public on what the first resolution looked like. Here's the second one.
Yeah.
Having to do with the state.
The assembly districting maps in the end didn't really affect Girdwood, and I think they went with what Girdwood maybe had favored. So, but right now it's really in front of Girdwood is the Senate one.
Correct. Any questions on number 9 or comments from anyone? I think that at this point in time, we don't, as a board, we don't necessarily need to draft a new resolution for what's going on until after a potential court ruling. What my personal statement would be. Anything else on 9?
So, I agree with that, Brianna. I think we stated our stance on it on the original letter.
And Jennifer's hands up.
Thank you, Guy. Thanks, Jennifer. Go ahead.
I just wanted to offer one piece of information which people might not be clear on, is that this is a 10-year reapportionment. So whatever gets decided, we get stuck with for a decade.
Yeah. Thanks, Jennifer. Okay, I think we can move on to number 10. Vote on revision to GBOS rules and procedures, draft 3.22. Margaret or Kyle, do you have anything before we have a motion?
Let Margaret talk to it.
Yeah, I think, Kyle, if you can scroll down to page 11 of 19 of this, when it gets to the part that we made changes to. So basically putting in the language that we discussed at the last meeting, showing that those who are needing relief from the 2 meeting requirement will provide us with a written understanding of why the action is needed, when they became aware of it, why they need relief. What's the due date of the action? Sorry. So this really just reflects what we've been discussing. It also now is represented in the operating principles and rules for the Trails Committee. They'll be voting on this at their next meeting, as will land use. So this puts everybody in pretty close alignment with similar language.
Thank you, Margaret. Any questions from the board? I'd entertain a motion to approve the GBOS rules and procedures draft 3.22.
Also moved.
Do I have a second?
Yeah, I'll second.
Thank you, Jennifer and Guy. Any other discussion on this? Further discussion?
I see no hands.
Thanks, Kyle. I'll ask for a roll call vote since we have less people.
Sure. Brianna Sullivan,
Yes.
Guy Wade,
Yes.
Amanda Sassy,
Yes.
Jennifer Wingard.
Yes.
That motion passes 4-0.
Thank you, Kyle. Thanks, everyone. I think that will help with public process, not only in our board, but the rest of the subcommittees in Girdwood. We can be more on the efficient side. Number 11, GVSA capital budget.
Yes, I'll talk to this quickly, and I think this is going to sort of just setting the grounds to, sorry, let me get through. There we go. At this point in time, these are the current balances of our capital budget, and we are working through projects that we can get done with our capital funding. But I do think it's important, and I mentioned this most recently, that it's important for the service area to start saving more for capital budgets, as we're not successful with capital bonds, and internally for us to save and keep up with our infrastructure. You know, we have a lot of nice infrastructure out there that needs improvement or just update, and we need to have a capital budget that can handle that. We try to balance capital between what we can save and then also what we may have left over from winter, as we still have to do standard summer maintenance, but then we try to do some capital projects in there. But sometimes, like a big winter like now, I'll have a very slim budget for doing capital projects this summer. So I think it's important that we start making more contributions to our capital for parks, roads, and fire, particularly, so that we start growing a larger savings there, and we don't have to wait 10 years to tackle some of our projects, because that just makes our deferred maintenance list get larger in the back. So as we move towards budget cycle here this summer, I'll probably be coming to the board with some amounts for them to consider what we can do to increase that. Like you hear tonight, we've submitted all kinds of different ways for capital grants. Right now, we're hoping that the state comes through on some of those capital grants, especially for Land Road and the Alyeska drainage projects. I was very pleased to hear that they have been submitted to the governor. And so I'm curious to see what that governor's capital budget is going to look like. Hopefully they'll be included when it comes out on Thursday. If not, we will definitely petitioning our representatives to try to get it in there for at least the Ruan and Alyeska Creek projects, because those are critical infrastructure. They either have connected to vital services, or these improvements will protect homes in residential areas. So with that, we try to save, like our last big savings got us to repave Alberg, and that was a mixture of capital savings, grants, and other resources to make that happen. And it took us almost 6 to 7 years to make that happen. So I feel like we're falling behind. So anyways, I'm sort of on a soapbox there as to how I feel that way, but I want to make sure that we continue to talk about this issue going forward. I don't suspect anything tonight, but I'm open for questions, and we will push forward with this as we move towards 2023 budget discussions.
Thank you, Kyle. Thanks for the heads up on thoughts about saving, as you always would, ahead of time for 2023 to start this far out, of course. Any questions from the board?
I see no hands.
You'll have more for us next meeting. Okay. Any questions from anybody else?
No hands.
Okay, number 12, update on GBOS Resolution 2020-11, resolution against racism and community forum. Guy.
Yeah, thanks, Brianna. I guess first start, this is a resolution that was written in September 2020. And I think the reason that we're seeing it on the agenda again, I agree with the resolution. And I think it's well written. It does add an action item to GBOS in a way. If you look at that bottom of the document there, it reads, therefore, let it be further resolved that the Girdwood Board of Supervisors also commits to convening a community forum on this topic. So that is what I have been looking into here lately, of what this community forum looks like and how we would put it on. I've reached out to First Alaskans Institute, the Alaska Black Caucus, and Native Peoples Actions, and I was going to start those discussions with those groups and see what is how to put together this forum. And then I think we need to decide, as a board and a community, does GBOS want to sponsor this? So I think before we get there, I would like to learn a little more about what it would take to pull this together, or possibly a nonprofit in our community could spearhead this. But so that's kind of why you're seeing it on the agenda appear again after it was written so long ago, and I'll just keep you abreast. I don't know if we want to, I'm fine keeping it on the agenda for sure, but that is where we're at on that, and I'll take any questions if anybody has any.
Thank you, Guy. Are there any questions for Guy?
I see no hands.
Thank you for making those calls, Guy, and keeping this on the agenda. As we all would agree, it's an important issue, and to keep this resolution honored while we're all new board members. And it was written a while ago, not too long ago, but we're all turning over. Anything else on that? Number 13, Girdwood Service Area Manager Review, discuss progress in setting date for meeting. Do we have a date for the meeting, Margaret?
No, what we found is that we had one person missing from all of the dates, one person or another, not the same person. But anyway, it just seemed like none of the dates provided the availability for everyone to attend. And it was Mike Edgington's feeling that it would be best if everybody was able not just to attend, but to attend in person, which was kind of a new element and not something that I had asked in the poll. So I think what we're going to do is regroup and probably pitch some dates perhaps a little bit later. I think the dates that we were looking at went from this week into the first 10 days of May. And so I guess I'll be looking at dates later into May, I'm concerned that it will get harder to find dates that people are available rather than easier. So if you have a chance to get back in that poll, if you're feeling differently about your availability or have any updates that you were able to make, that might help us to determine a date. Or, you know, if you also have ideas on dates that you'd like for me to pitch. We also have some conflicts with availability of this room if we're trying to hold it in person. This is most likely a meeting that would start as a special meeting and then would turn into executive session. So we don't need a lot of space, but we need some place to hold it. So that's really all I've got right now.
Thank you, Margaret. Thanks for explaining that. I was having more of a question with the latest way of Doodle or Google polling, or however the polling worked. A year or so ago, the polling was, at least as a user to click, I could maybe change my mind again, but I didn't go back and reselect based on other people's availability and say, well, I guess I could really rearrange the schedule to attend so that all of us are there in person, because I do feel this is time sensitive, and having us all be there would be great. But you're saying we can go back in and change the polling?
Should be able to.
Okay. I'm willing to try that first to see what everyone had submitted. But I know that now we're into starting a new week, and conflicts in that room that's why the poll was scheduled for certain times based on room availability. Any other questions or comments from the board?
I don't see any.
Okay. Are there any thoughts on if 4 people could be in person and 1 person couldn't be there in person, if we're willing to choose a date for that, if someone could call in, virtually be there?
I do like that option. I think I think that is going to make, especially if we push this off anymore, you know, it's going to get more difficult. But no, Brianna, I think personally, I think that would work well and get us all in the same room, so to speak, sooner rather than later.
Okay. Thank you, Guy. And to that comment then, if we all tried to go back into the poll and say, with the idea that all those check boxes were there in person at that time, that we could tell Margaret and Kyle, or Margaret, since she's managing this, hey, I could be on virtual attendance that time on that date. And maybe that would make the difference happen. Would everybody be willing to do that?
I would.
That made sense.
Sorry, so you're saying we should go back into the existing poll, or are we, I thought we were going to maybe have a new poll, or you're saying we should go back into the existing one?
And I'm kind of thinking on the spot as far as I would go into the existing poll if it was more than 24 hours out, because that needs to be posted, of course. And probably we're running out of time this week. But I would just look at the dates that I can't remember right now off the top of my head and assume all those check boxes were people that could be in person at that time. But if that's one time I could only call in, I would email Margaret and say, hey, I could do this date and call in or virtually be there. Does that make sense, Jennifer? Maybe not.
It does. I just have the very bad habit, I guess, of deleting these things as soon as I fill them out and then wait to hear the results. So I don't know if I still have this in my inbox.
I can resend you the link.
Thanks, Heather.
Okay, thanks, Margaret.
Okay, maybe we could go from there and choose the date outside of this meeting time in interest of time for this meeting tonight.
Sure.
Anything else on 13?
No hands.
Okay, thank you, Kyle. And thank you, Margaret. Number 14, Girdwood Parks and Recreation request for $28,640 from the Parks 406 Capital Fund for the Butte Company to produce design documents for a pavilion to be constructed in Lions Club Park.
Yes, we are requesting this funding to basically come up with full design docs and complete all the geotech to create those docs. One thing that we have found in sort of the feedback I think we received back is that if we had a full package completed, we may have been more successful for grants for this. And the board of supervisors passed a resolution of support for this pavilion project in Lions Club Park. And so we've received a proposal from Butte Company. It's for $28,000. And basically it would cover the topographic and base map surveys, the geotechnical investigation. That's where they come out and they'll drill test holes to see what the soil looks like, make sure that it's firm enough to hold that structure. And then we would have the civil construction documents. So basically structural documents that are created and are ready for a contractor to build a pavilion out there. And so, and then they would also provide us bidding support and inspection report as we move through the building of the structure when we go out to that. So as you can see, there's a breakdown on the last page. We'll scroll down to it here. Oops, let me pull the proposal. We have the proposal in front of you. Here we go. So here's the proposal within the packet that goes through and talks about the different aspects of work that will be completed under this. And then on the last page, it shows you the breakdown. So within this TPC or the Butte Company, they would be so basically sort of the general project management team on this. They would do a lot of the survey work, but then we would have different subcontractors doing the geotechnical engineering, and then the civil construction. There would be like Reed Middleton who would be doing that, well-respected civil engineering firm, and then they would help us through the permitting process. So the total comes to $28,640. This would come out of our capital account. And it would probably mostly come out of our contribution right now that we have sitting going towards capital for this year out of the 2022 budget. So, so we're looking for a motion of support from GBOS tonight in order to appropriate the funds to get this completed.
Thanks, Kyle.
Margaret's got access to it.
Thanks, Margaret.
I was just looking at the TBD under hydrology and hydraulics. So I'm wondering if when we request this motion, perhaps we want to add a not to exceed number that's greater than the 28,640 to allow for that.
That's a good point. We would ask that it not exceed $30,000. And mostly the TBD is, sometimes we're successful getting that flood hazard permit waived, but it's all dependent. And we haven't done a flood hazard permit in 22, so it's all dependent on where they're at with their funding structure for this year. So we didn't know if we're going to get that waived at this point in time, but historically we have. So we would ask not to exceed $30,000. Thanks for catching that, Margaret.
Thank you, Margaret. Are there any questions from the board?
I see no hands.
Okay. I would entertain a motion of support with limiting the approval from the capital not more than 30,000 for the Lions Club Park design by Butte Company.
Also move.
Do you have a second?
Yeah, I'll second this.
Okay, thanks, Guy. Is there any further discussion? Kyle, what's the timeline again, really quick?
They would They would start working on it this summer and use this field season to get all that geotechnical. And we probably would have construction docs by the end of summer. One grant that we are going for is the Land Water Conservation Fund. And we've been told by the state that that should be coming out the fall. And this is the prime project for that type of grant. So we would want to have these docs ready for that. So they're aware of it. If they can get started now, especially once snow melts over there, then they can get it in and get all the drafting done and going forward. Brianna, Amanda's hand is up.
Thank you. Amanda.
Thank you. Kyle, I'm wondering how much is in the Parks 406 Capital Fund currently? Do you know?
Right now, we have, let me look back, I'll give you the exact number. In the capital fund right now, we have 1.1 million. And 473,000 of that is designated for the Winter Creek Bridge. And then 640,000 is undesignated, so it's not tied to anything. And $70,000 is tied to capital purchases for the community room.
Thank you. And I was wondering how, so we have two other pavilions currently. How well used are they between the Marlowe and the Nissen Pavilion?
They're pretty well used. We don't reserve the Nisman Pavilion. It's first come, first serve, and it also is a pavilion for the campground. So that has constant use. And then the reservations for the Marlowe have gotten steadier and steadier. It's actually a very sort of favorite place for rehearsal dinners, and then also weddings have increased even more out there. So, and then Forest Fair, things like that. So in that aspect. And then Amanda, one other thing I forgot to point out is that we have 125,000 contribution this year from our capital budget going into the capital budget. So that will raise the undesignated up over close to $800,000.
Thank you. It is a beautiful spot. I found that to be a perfect wedding spot. So also, what maybe you already covered this, but I didn't hear the Lions Club. Are they contributing anything toward this yet?
Yes, so they will probably, with the grants that we go after, we're using them to seek our match. So if we go for grants, and if it's it depends on the grant. So if it's a 50-50 grant, we're realistic that they probably can't come up with 50% of the funds. We're estimating this project somewhere to be in the $60,000 to $70,000 range. And so they'll do their best to come up with what they can and fundraise through their program. But if it's a 90-10, which we see with these federal grants, they may be able to easily come up with that 10% for us. So they're on board to help us as we go through those granting opportunities.
Thank you.
If there are no further questions, I would ask for a roll call, Kyle.
Sure. We'll start with Brianna Sullivan.
Yes.
Guy Wade.
Yes.
Amanda Sassy.
Yes.
Jennifer Wingard.
Yes.
That motion passes 4-0.
Thank you, Kyle, and for all of your work. I look forward to any news on the grant too. Number 15, review and consider support for HB 411, an act relating to municipal tax exemptions and deferrals on economic development property. Passage would allow Girdwood to fully benefit from municipal tax. I know Mike did a considerable amount of work on this, and I did listen to the legislative meetings on this that was on their website. You can watch the video, and it was they're in support of it. And even Matthew Harvey told us at the beginning of the meeting that they are also in support of this. Phil Falsey spoke to it as well at the legislative meeting, and it's not clear to me to even explain, but I believe that would behoove Girdwood to support it. And
yeah.
I don't know if Mike wrote a resolution for it or was wanting to, but I'll take anyone else after this to speak to it.
Sure, and I'll just let you know, we put the House bill in the packet tonight, so you can see that, and it is displayed on the screen. So Amanda has her hand up, Brianna.
Okay, Amanda, please.
Sorry, it was a legacy hand. I'll put it back down.
Thanks.
Okay.
Yeah, we don't have a resolution in hand, and I'll be honest, I don't know enough about this to speak to it, so I'm kind of at a loss right now to fully understand it.
That's fine. It's one of those topics that is not on the radar really, so you have to be pretty keen on legislation to notice what's going on in that other whole arena in Juneau. Any other comments from the board on this as far as it is under old business because it was pretty new and it would move quickly also, which Mike was surprised about because the legislation was open to it and said, yeah, we can probably deal with this next week. And that was 2 or 3 weeks ago as far as bringing it to whatever it's going to next that Matthew said. So I assume that we can't do an action tonight, except maybe in our special meeting we could.
Yeah, you can take it to a special meeting.
Comments?
You can take it to a special meeting at this point.
Okay. That's what I would be happy to do. If there's no other comments on that, we could move to new business.
Hey, Brianna, real quick.
Yes, Matthew.
Matthew. I'm still here actually. But just, I guess, timeline wise, this would probably, I mean, you never really know. It's in House rules, and the next step is to go to the floor. It's kind of House rules sets the calendar for the floor. So after, I think it has pretty broad support, so the outlook for the floor is pretty good. But then, you know, we're kind of running short on our timeline. We have like about 2.5 weeks really now left. So as soon as you guys can, it'll have to go probably just the Senate Community and Regional Affairs, and if they have a I guess support from GBOS, then we can kind of go talk to them about trying to get it like on the calendar quick, because it'll have to do that. So it'll have to have a Senate floor to get it referred to CRA, and then it'll have another Senate floor session to get it referred to rules, and then another Senate floor session to hear it. So just as soon as possible, I would say, because we only have like 2.5 weeks. So really it would need support within like the next week or week and a half.
Thank you for the timeline clarification, Matthew. Simply because I don't think we know when our next special meeting is. Would anyone be willing to make a motion that we write a resolution, and then perhaps Mike would be able to write the resolution within a 2-week window, and that way we're not in a time crunch? If not, that's fine. Thought I'd throw it out there.
Brianna?
Yes.
So this is Guy, what are you proposing to, because we definitely don't, you know, we can't vote on anything now. We don't even have a resolution. So are we voting on?
Oh, that's true.
Making my,
We could agree to write the resolution, and Mike would probably be happy to write this resolution within 2 weeks. And that way we don't have to wait till a special meeting to make that. But we could maybe pass it at that special meeting because maybe the resolution has been written by then. Did that make sense? Or we just wait till a special meeting to have the resolution and pass it?
Yeah, I'd be more comfortable doing that just so we could also get a little more information about this. I feel like a little bit at sea about all this.
Okay, that is fine. So meanwhile, just know that it could be on the floor in 2.5 weeks, and having our support would be ideal if it's having such broad support there. Thank you, Matthew.
It'll probably be on the House floor like by the end of this week or the beginning of next week. And then it'll go over to the Senate. And so the support is really to get it the hearing in Community and Regional Affairs in the Senate.
Okay.
Which would be probably in about 2 weeks.
Okay.
Brianna?
And then yes, Kyle?
I just wanted, through you, I wanted to ask Matthew, could you keep us, maybe just shoot email to Margaret or I and keep us up the status on this bill as it moves, and then we can make sure the board understands what's going on.
Yeah, absolutely. And unfortunately, I'm not massively well versed on it, but really I can get, like, the short summary is that it gives service areas such as GBOS the ability to provide tax exemptions or really economic development incentives, and then it defines economic development, what that means. But I'll definitely, keep you guys in the loop, like email you guys and probably call Brianna whenever it goes to the floor. You can watch the floor session and keep you guys in the loop with whatever the vote is on the floor. So absolutely, yeah.
Thank you, Kyle, for that. That would help us, I'm sure. And it was already over a week or two, maybe 2 weeks, but over a week that I watched that meeting, and people called in to testify for this bill. So people can do that in their own capacity as well. Anything else on this one from the board? Thank you, Jennifer, also for your comment. We'll just ask that this be on the special meeting agenda when we write that agenda up. I think. Okay, new business. Number 16, agenda item LUC 2204-05, request for GBOS resolution of support for Girdwood Health Clinic Phase 2 modification. Assembly action to Title 21 allow slightly larger health services building in the GC7 district. Urban Design Commission hearing is scheduled for June 8th, 2022. Public meeting held on this item was March 28th with the recording link. Anyone speaking to this?
At this point in time, I don't see anybody remaining on the call that might be speaking to this. So. Okay.
Is this in the packet, Kyle?
It is in the packet. Yeah, and I don't know if the resolution.
No, there's not a draft resolution yet. This is new business, so this is its introduction. And I think that overall the plans are very similar to what we've seen before. It's just that the clinic design team, I believe, wants to maximize the possible space that they can use based on a change to municipal code that has occurred that would allow them to be just slightly larger. And as the agenda states, there's a meeting that took place, a public meeting that is recorded and probably worth taking a look at to understand more fully what they're planning and how it differs from their original plans.
And I think the biggest area that I remember from, they spoke at LUC, and we'll definitely invite a representative to be here for the, when it becomes old business at next month's meeting. But I think it's the addition of this special services room here, which would have a private entrance. Originally the plans, I think this was showed as a patio, but this would be added in and allow for more meeting spaces for special services like AA or mental health or whatever it may be. It just gives more meeting space for community use and for the clinic's use.
Thank you, Margaret and Kyle. That is also what I got out of that meeting online that you can watch. And for visual, it's helpful to if you need more clarification, they show the maps again. And there's a very next to no objection. So very much in support and with that land use. So yes, this is new business and we'll see it next time. Anything else on number 16 from anyone?
I see no hands.
Go ahead,
go ahead,
the procedure. Do we need to have somebody with writing this resolution or?
We usually like to present a resolution when it comes up for old business, so we will definitely work with the petitioners here to have a resolution.
Oh, you guys will.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. They usually write
Thank
it,
you.
Margaret.
Good, okay.
Right. Okay, thank you, Guy. And thanks, Kyle, for clarifying. Anything else on that agenda item? All right, moving on to number 17, agenda item LUC 2204-06, new liquor license for Sadie Romo's, number 6025, and transfer of Hightower Pub liquor license number 3558 are before the Anchorage Assembly agenda on April 26th, which is tomorrow, I believe. Response and support, neutral or in opposition, must be received by tomorrow, April 26th, 2022. So
I can explain a little bit. This is on the agenda because we received the notification from the state and municipality about these liquor licenses. Neither of the licensees have requested any action. So really, if we were hearing strong opposition or support, there might be impetus for GBOS to take some action before tomorrow. But at this point, we've not heard any argument or anything one way or the other. It was presented at land use as well. So I think they're just moving along through the system. And unless you feel strongly about it, there's really no need to take action at this time.
thank you,
If
Margaret.
there was need to, then we would need to move it into a whole business because it has not been before you before.
Right. Any comments from the board or questions?
No, just when it was in land use, I don't remember anybody speaking to it, right? As I said, yeah, it was just, I do remember it being on the agenda, but I didn't remember.
Okay.
And then going forward, they'll show up in our usual renewal cycle and be included. We usually do a blanket letter of non-objection to all of the liquor licenses unless there was objection brought forward. And that typically happens in the November, December timeframe.
Thank you, Margaret and Guy. Are there any questions then about that or any further questions? Okay, before we move to number 18, John Weddleton has joined the call. John, welcome.
Hi there. Sorry I'm late.
Hi.
We were solving homelessness. Oh, am I on deck?
You are. We're happy to fit you in and talk to you. Thank you.
Well, hi. I guess I don't have a lot of notes to say. I wanted to make sure I was here. This will be my last evening addressing you as assembly member. We'll have a change in the guard tomorrow. And I know Randy is on the phone here. I saw that as well. It has been an amazing 6 years. And as you've heard me say many times, representing Girdwood has been definitely very much a high point of those 6 years. It's been incredible working with you. You guys do great work. And I've learned a lot from working with you and really enjoyed it too. So what's going on? We do have the budget tomorrow, and first thing I checked was the mill rates, as I've been trained by Mike Edgington to do, and I believe all the other assembly members did as well. And I think we're not having the problem I know we're not having the problem that we had last year. Budget is quite a bit higher than last year just by natural growth. I think the mayor's proposal is actually pretty much in line with what the assembly's been doing for many years, you know, is emphasizing public safety, more money for the police, which we've done consistently, funding for the fire department to meet the, and this is the first quarter budget revisions I'm talking about for tomorrow. Funding for the fire department is increased to meet the collective bargaining agreement that we approved last fall. So I don't see any issues with that. There are a number of amendments, not a huge dollar amount considering, and it actually just brings the budget back to what the assembly approved in December. The mayor kind of deleted some things that were added. There are some pieces in there we have emphasized. One is the training funds for Whittier and Girdwood Fire and Rescue, putting that in there. Another one is to complete the fully fund the contract for EMT with Girdwood Fire and Rescue. So so those will be in there, and I think that we'll see support for those. I expect that. I won't be there to vote on them, but I do have those. I did put those amendments forward, and I think we'll have support. So it'll be a busy meeting tomorrow. I expect there's a couple big things that are really citywide issues, so not directly with you, but dealing with the homelessness is obviously a big deal everywhere. I mean, driving down the highway, see more parked along the road there, so we know that things are expanding all over. There's a big issue with funding for one of the components of the system augmentation that we're doing is the navigation center at Tudor Elmore. And there's a funding piece for that I don't expect to get to on Wednesday. So it's very, very likely that will be at a special meeting on Thursday. And we had another several hour long listening session on that today at the Lusac Library. And it was productive because we had more information available for people than we did at last week's, which was not a very effective meeting. And before the meeting on Thursday, we will have substantial amount of information that people are asking about, very much more accurate costs on the buildings. We'll have a picture of the design of it, list of various kind of services will be provided there. And I think create a better understanding for people that this is not someplace created to warehouse people, but is the first stop into the system that we're augmenting, but also, works very closely with the traditional shelters and services that have been out there. So it's actually very exciting, and that's been a huge amount of time in the last 10 months working on that. And such I tell people I got fired by the voters 2.5 weeks ago, but I've been working harder than ever, largely with that. But it's very fulfilling work because I think we are poised to do something dramatically better for Anchorage. So anyway, if you have questions, I'll hang out for a while.
Thank you very much, John, and thank you for all of your service and representation of Girdwood and Anchorage and our fire department as well lately with the latest budget items. I know Mike Edgington would have been really eloquent in saying, but I know I'll see you again soon. And thanks for always attending our meetings. Does anyone have any questions for John?
Jennifer has her hand up.
Jennifer, please.
Hey, John, I wanted to echo what Brianna said and thank you for your incredible service and dedication, and particularly on the homeless situation. I know that might not seem like it directly affects Girdwood, but we are all part of that issue and that problem, and it's been a huge ongoing problem for Anchorage. And I know where several areas have been really heavily affected by that. So thank you for your work on that. I wonder if you could, I didn't hear any mention of your Weddleton Amendment 2 to the operating budget, which, unless I got an erroneous piece of information here, you've got something about studying short-term rental situations in Girdwood. I was kind of surprised to not hear that in your update.
Sorry about that. I was just kind of going through ahead. I've just spent the last about 6-7 hours working on homeless stuff, and I'm like, okay, what are we gonna say here? No, that's on there too, and that's something that has been an ongoing issue. I'm working with Mike and others in the community to get a grip on short-term rentals, and the Granicus folks did a little presentation for us, sometime last year, it could have been 6 months or more ago, on what they could do and how we could use that information. So I don't think I specifically mentioned Granicus in that, but that is a likely company would provide that service. But really need to get a grip of how much there is in Girdwood, and then maybe there should be regulations. I don't know, but I think you need to know the extent of use of homes for short-term rentals before you really start doing that. And if anyone supports those, chime in at the public hearing tomorrow. I guess I should say if anyone has thoughts on them.
I'm sorry, I do have to speak up. Unfortunately, your wording in this document took a lot of us by surprise today, and we were really perturbed by it, especially those of us who have done extensive amount of works within the housing working group. And in particular, the statement that equates short-term, well, there are a number of reasons why our community might want to regulate short-term rentals. It was the conclusion of the housing working group that freeing up long-term rentals was not going to be one of them. The economics are just very different. So in a sense, what you've done here is kind of, for example, without consulting the business owners here, it would be the equivalent of me saying to you, hey, if I cut down on all the comic books, then we're going to have fewer people involved in social media, and we'll get rid of all kinds of X, Y, and Z social issues. There's just simply economically no connection between the economics of long-term rentals and what our renters can afford and what our houses cost, and being able to turn that magically somehow a spigot, that if we shut off the spigot for short-term rentals, we will automatically get a spigot for long-term rentals. And again, this is repeated over and over and over again in the housing working group notes. So this is not my personal opinion. This is, our economics are just different than Anchorage's. Our renters don't earn as much, and our houses are more expensive, and they don't match up. So this idea, we are in a crisis. Many of us are looking at Holton Hills and similar housing developments that don't address our affordable housing needs in a bit of a panic. That is we are going to need the kind of private and public partnership that was seen, for example, in the AEDC housing development downtown. But this kind of thing that makes it seem like if we can regulate short-term rentals and thereby solve our long-term rental project, gets in the way not only of our, it sort of demonizes our short-term rental owners, but also it gets in the way of us finding real solutions. So while there might be many reasons to do this, your wording unfortunately alienated a significant portion of the Girdwood people who have been working really hard on this. And I don't think that was your intent. So I kind of hate to see this as you head out the door. I just wanted that.
Well, no, I appreciate that. You can, if you would, so I guess it sounds like you had a discussion earlier, and I could listen to the tape or email what changes you might suggest, because really the intent was, let's find out what the extent is and then decide a path forward. But it's like, we hear these discussions. So, I mean, and I understand there's a business reason for doing this. I have rentals, and we're doing the math on should they be short term. But but the intent was just we should do a baseline study on where we are, and that's really the goal of it. But the amendment can certainly be modified. We can cross out things that are bad. I think it was a lot of those things were written fairly quickly. So I appreciate the feedback.
Okay, thanks. Thank you.
So tell me though, is there opposition to funding the study to learn more, or is it just the whereases were junky?
I think it's the whereases. It's the whereas.
Okay.
And yes. I think that there is a lot of support for figuring out what kind of short-term regulations might work for the community, but equating it automatically with a solution to our long-term rental crisis is, we think, economically and mathematically inaccurate.
Yeah, and that's my sense too, that when one doesn't exactly hit the other. But I'd be happy if you can send edits. I will certainly propose those. So appreciate that.
Okay, excellent. Thanks. Okay.
Thank you, Jennifer. Anything else for John?
No other hands at this time.
No other hands. Okay. Well, thank you, John. Great work.
You bet. Thanks.
We'll get a break from meetings tonight after this. Okay, if nothing else, we'll go to number 18, agenda item LUC 2204-07, marijuana license renewal, request for public hearing, if desired, is required by resolution no later than June 1st, 2022. If no hearing is required, request GBOS letter of non-objection for the herbal cache.
Yeah, so this is a part of the annual process or the biannual process where they have to renew their license, like a liquor license. So Brent will probably show up at the next meeting and provide an update as is required and take any questions at that time. So just another part of the liquor, or excuse me, the marijuana renewal license process.
Right. Thank you for elaborating on that and then keeping that on the agenda for us. Any questions from the board? Number 19, discuss setting up GBOS meeting for assignments following municipal election. One is assigning roles for 2022, public safety, roads and utilities, fire department, land use, parks and rec / cemetery, and another established co-chairs.
Yeah, so tomorrow night, the election, I believe, will be certified, and part of that, Guy Wade's seat will, and he'll probably get a seat back again. So usually following the certification of the election each year, GBOS decides what roles they want to take or switch to as a supervisor, and then the co-chairs are established once again for another year. So we just have that on here as new business, and it'll be old business at your main meeting.
Sounds good. Thank you, Kyle. Any questions from the board on number 19?
I do have like a process question. Is this, we'll make these decisions during next meeting and the discussions of the assignment roles for each. We'll have time during the meeting too.
It often has been held as part of a special meeting or an executive session. So it might be that this is something that GBOS considers putting into another meeting. So that at the next regular meeting, it can be more of an announcement of the co-chairs and the assignments rather than
Special meetings open to the public, right? So I mean, public could attend.
Correct.
But it's just, I don't know. I guess they're all good committees to be on, and I just didn't know how those were chosen, and I haven't been through that process yet, so I didn't know if it would help to meet in a public setting, but in a smaller group probably, and discuss the roles and responsibilities and the co-chairs too. But I don't know if anybody else on the board would like to meet before then. Sounds like we already have one special meeting before our next one. So
we usually try to tag the special meeting right before the regular meeting. So you guys, because sometimes this discussion about the supervisor role kind of gets dragged out a bit because you talk about the requirements of each role. And so instead of mixing into your general meeting, which usually is a long agenda, we try to let you guys have that discussion in advance. So we usually try to establish it just the hour before the meeting starts.
Oh, great. Okay, thanks.
Anything else?
No hands at this time.
Thanks, Kyle. Reports. Do I need to read 20 and 21? I'm sure there are reports that are needing addressing and reading. They're all important and put in our agenda to know what's going on in the community. If there's any other comments, go ahead.
We just put them there so that people know they can go into the packet and you can see the packet's full of stuff, but in here there are reports after you get past all the marijuana and liquor license applications. Sorry, as you're watching this on the screen. So yeah, there's definitely reports in there. So you're able to follow up and find more about each committee. So
thank you for including those. If there isn't anything else I missed, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll move to adjourn.
Thank you, Amanda. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. And thanks, Kyle and Margaret, for hosting our first almost in-person meeting and hybrid.
Yes.
Thank you, everyone, for coming.
Thanks, Brianna.
We appreciate any feedback.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.